morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you who have joined in today on the very, very last day of the Rise World Summit. Rise World Summit, as you know, has been on since the last 4 days. And we have come into the very last leg of this exciting journey that we've had over the last 4 days. More than 6,000 participants, 60 different sessions, and many more, and tons of interactions, tons of breakthrough interactions, all aimed at finding solutions, finding collaborations on the Sustainable Development Goals. But you know what? We are going to go out with a bang right till the end. And we've got you a session today, which is going to be so exciting that you really will be, you'll be, well, at the edge of your seats, I'm sure. Now, we put together a wonderful group out here who will be actually on a fireside chat, as we call it, on impact of the audiovisual medium on affecting social change. Now, the question we often ask is, well, does audiovisual media really play a role in impacting social change on the ground? Well, I think after listening to our panel, well, I wouldn't want to call it a panel, this group of experts that we have here, speakers out here, I'm sure you'll go back, very much energized and convinced that yes, AV media, if used in the right way, has a huge role in playing and having an impact on social change on the ground. Without further ado, I would like to actually, introduce you to this diverse panel that we have here. And Karan Shaiva, who's the convener of this entire event, will kill me because she doesn't like the word panel. But yeah, well, let's go straight into it. I'd like to introduce our speakers today, starting with Ravi Karmalker. Ravi Karmalker is a German-Indian film producer who till date has received 33 nominations and first prizes at international film festivals. Since his early years, after studying history of arts, Ravi directed theater plays and trained approximately 150 actors in method acting. From 1995, as a radio and TV reporter for Europe's biggest national TV and radio stations, which is the German national broadcaster WDR, he produced over 1,000 features on cultural and social topics. Since 2002, Ravi has produced and directed numerous award-winning TV documentaries and docufiction for major German TV channels. Since 2017, Ravi has produced various German-Kenyan facts and fiction projects as showrunner, writer, and director. Among them is the high-end TV drama series Country Queen in partnership with ZDFarte, the German Federal Ministry for Development and Economic Cooperation, BMZ, Deutsche Welle-Akademie, and Netflix. Country Queen, launched on Netflix in mid-June 2022, held top 1 position for over 5 weeks and top 10 positions over 2 months. Please welcome Ravi Karmalker on the chat. And let me go ahead to introduce Adi Pocha. Adi Pocha is absolutely, needs no introduction, but let me just go ahead and tell you a little bit about Adi as well. Adi Pocha is a writer-director. He's a physics graduate. He was creative director of Lintas at age 25. He's on the board of directors of UTV and currently the founder-director of Squircle Productions, which specializes in corporate films or business movies. So that's the angle he's getting to the stage today. His creative milestones include the Kama Sutra condoms ad with Pooja Bedi, very, very famous, maybe a little notorious, but truly a classic advertising campaign. Saap Siri, the game show with Mohan Kapoor, India's first daily soap Shanti with Mandira Bedi. Current clients include HUL, Ernst & Young, L&T, Axis Bank, Cipla, JCB, Yuva Parivartan, among many others. But this is very, very interesting. He's also made many films with a social message and impact. Notable among these would be films for HUL's Shakti program, which ended up creating livelihoods for rural women. The Touching Little Hearts film for Kokilaben Hospital, which raised more than rupees 35 crores for children's heart surgeries. And the film for Bharat Ke Veer, which generated rupees 12.5 crores for the families of our martyrs in just one afternoon. Welcome, Adi. Let's welcome Adi on the chat. Great to have you with us, Adi, as well. Our next one is a very, very dynamic lady who wears several hats. We have Jhelum Ratna, director, producer, corporate communication, media, creative films, global exposure. Well, Jhelum is actually, once again, a microbiologist turned filmmaker. What's it about people who are leaving science and getting into this? But all power to them. So she's the founder, producer, director of Collage Communication, an acclaimed media agency with a panel of directors, including established ad film directors and TV and feature film directors. In 20 plus years, she's delivered around 1,000 successful projects, including production and direction of ad films, as digital and TV commercials, documentary films, corporate films, TV shows, which run the gamut: drama series, docudrama, sports and entertainment, and children programs, comedy serials, animation films, music videos, and line productions for feature films. Clients include several MNCs, government, and many others. She's done tons of projects with celebrities and film stars like Sonakshi Sinha, Shilpa Shetty, Sonali Bendre, Neena Gupta. Also sports personalities like MS Dhoni, Kapil Dev, Ravi Shastri, Sunil Gavaskar, Harbhajan Singh, to TV stars like Anjan Shrivastava, Supriya Pathak, Sachin Khedekar, and Rima Lagu. So she's actually spanned the whole spectrum of media, and done tons of projects. Apart from that, she's acquired 300 plus Indian and international clients and led large team consisting 200 plus multicultural personnel for successful completion of creative projects. She's actually been honored in several festivals. She was honored with first prize at the Advertising Club Awards in Mumbai for a film for Pfizer, a Clio certificate for the Max Factor film, the second prize in the Creative Concepts category at the Asian Television Awards Forum in Singapore, etc., etc. Other awards: a silver for the Asia Pacific PR Campaign of the Year for a film for Marriott International Singapore, and many others, right? And she was also the executive producer for the feature film Dhanak, directed by Nagesh Kukunur, a very different, very beautiful film, which actually falls in line with what we are discussing today as well. So welcome, Jhelum. Great to have you on board. Let's welcome Jhelum with a huge, welcome on the chat, yeah? It's online medium. And finally, we have someone who's going to put all this together. We have a fabulous moderator. Name is Bijoy Idicheriah. He's a senior journalist. He's a senior financial journalist who has been writing on the world of banking and central banking for 17 years. He's currently an independent journalist who contributes to BQ Prime and rest of the world. In the past, he has been associated with the brands such as Crisil MarketWire, Newswire 18, Cogensis Information Services, DebtWire, and Informus Media. He also teaches at St. Paul's Institute of Communication Education, Xavier's Institute of Communication, IIJNM, and BSc Institute, among several others. And this is very interesting, and this is where I think he's going to enjoy the session, because outside of journalism, you're likely to find him either performing a theater show on stage or conducting Bollywood karaoke. So I think we got a diverse mix of people, very exciting, people, definitely. I'm going to enjoy this. But I'll hand it over straight away to Bijoy. Without further ado, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Naresh. I think Adi is having a bit of an issue. So while we wait for Adi, I'll try and tap the minds of the panel that's already available with me. Between the three of you, and I heard Ravi saying also, we have radio. We have covered radio, documentary, feature film, advertising films, corporate television, TV content, and much more. So I'm not even saying that we've only done this. We've done a lot more. I don't think we can encapsulate all of that within the time that we have. But let me just start that off by talking about your personal experiences on, such kind of projects where you're trying to effect social change when you do a project. And when you do this, does the story define what the medium will be, or sometimes the medium is fixed and you decide to do the story? So does the story say that it should be a book? Does the story say that it should be a short film? Does the story say it should be a podcast? How do you decide that? And then please do talk about, the extensive work that you all have done in this space. Jhelum first and then Ravi.
So in our case, it really depends. We've done several films on social change, and it all depends on the project that we're given, or is it a project that we want to take forward? We have made a film that we ourselves have produced, which was on the street children on Carter Road. We keep seeing every morning these children being taught by retired people, by students, and they're taught on the streets. There is no table or chair. And the children come here because they're hungry to learn, and they're also hungry to eat, because immediately after the session, there is a breakfast that is being served. So that is something that we initiated on our own and we funded on our own. But by and large, what happens is we get a project and we're told, hey, make a film based on this particular topic. So let me touch quickly. Tell me when you want to, when we want me to stop.
Feel free. We're just starting off. So feel free to first, bring the audience up to speed on what work you guys have been doing.
Okay, so like I said, it depends. This was the one that we funded. We wanted to do. It's something that we'd seen on the street, and we wanted to make it known to others that there are children who need education and who need food. But otherwise, it is other companies that come to us and say, hey, we need a film to be made. This is the topic, and this is what we'd like to do. So let me start with the feature film. We worked on a promotional music video for the film Lakshmi. The song was sung by Kailash Kher. And if you know the story of this film, it is produced and directed by Nagesh Kukunu. The film is awareness about human trafficking and child prostitution, the harsh realities. A year-old girl who's kidnapped, sold into prostitution. She's brutally beaten, raped, and then how she escapes when there's a police raid. She escapes and she then, resisting all pressure, lot of threats, bribes, she stands up in court and in a landmark case in India succeeds in putting the traffickers behind bars. So this, what they wanted was, while the film was being screened, they also wanted a promotional video to take it a little forward and get people to take action on this, not just, see the film and say, oh, how sad. So we made a promotional video where the film focused more on the social aspect, which was, are we being human? How can we look away when something like this is happening in front of us? Why are we not standing up and supporting these young girls? So we shot the film. It was a black and white film which featured Kailash Kher singing, the actress Monali Thakur. But we took shots of the public at large, random people from all walks of life on the road in Bombay. We shot them holding placards that said, are we being human? And we had these placards in red. So against this black and white film, we had red placards of ordinary people holding up saying, are we being human? And this was mainly to shake the public, get them to react, get the media to support these victims, build a campaign to rescue them, help them stand in court and testify, because that is where the catch comes. We can't catch the traffickers unless they testify. So give them courage. So that was on the feature film. Then we did one TV, which was for Candid Camera. At that time, we were working on a TV serial called Freeze You're on Camera, which is Candid Camera, basically. It's a series shot with multiple hidden cameras where you set up a bizarre situation and watch the candid reactions of people to the situation. It's humorous as you catch people totally off guard. And while we were doing this series, Alec Padamsi approached us to do one episode that featured the need for cleanliness. It was his concept. Have a talking dustbin positioned next to a vendor where people are coming and eating and littering the place. So we chose a bhelpuri vendor, and every time someone threw garbage on the ground, the dustbin would talk back to him. Can't you see me? I'm right here. Where's your civic sense? And it was really amusing to see these litter bugs get so startled by this talking dustbin, who could see every action of theirs and pulling them up for it publicly, because the dustbin had a strong voice, that of well-known voiceover artist Chetan Shashital, who was hidden behind the hidden camera with us. So he was watching the whole scene and he was reacting to what was happening, talking impromptu to random strangers every time they littered the place. And this was an episode that we screened with our Candid Camera episodes. And on hindsight, I wish we had involved Alec in all the episodes. You would have devised a far more meaningful series. We've done a lot more, but I can go on and on.
Sure. I will come back to you to talk about some of the other work also, but Ravi sir, if you could come in, and Adi, what I've also done is, apart from you all talking about your projects, I'm also asking whether, because you've also written a book, I'm also saying that does the story decide what should be the medium, or does the medium decide how the story should be told? So that's one part of the conversation that feel free to bring that in. So Ravi sir, then Adi.
Thank you for having me in here, and very interesting what Jhelum just explained. Very, very interesting. Let me just explain it along one example. We just finished last year in summer. We finished a feature film, 100 minutes, which will be shown on Netflix from March onwards. And this is quite exceptional because it's, first of all, a behavior change film, which is not usual that they take in behavior change film. But why is this so? Because it marries information and entertainment. So it's an edutainment film, which works well also with the mass audience. Therefore, Netflix has taken it. So how was the development? So there was the main founder had a budget and just a main idea. They wanted to do something in Kenya revolving the election, because in Kenya elections very often go along with a lot of violence caused to tribalism, which is quite strong in Kenya and also in other parts of sub-Saharan Africa. So this was the first idea, having like, we have to do something about it. So, and out of this very simple thought, we developed a Romeo and Juliet adaptation, which puts a young modern Kenyan couple into a situation where they are divided because their families are from different tribes, and their families are also very much involved into politics and also involved in different political parties. So you can see that, you know, giving a budget and just giving a thought, that's what then we developed something out of it, which ended up being a feature film. It also could have been documentary or something, but we felt that a feature film would be the best, as you can reach the biggest audience, or if you go on a feature film which is central, which is entertaining, which is thrilling. So this was one of the examples, one of the projects I produced on the behavior change film level. Yeah, so that's something. But I think maybe it's something also to talk about now here with the colleagues is, of course, we are very dependent on the founders. See, well, me myself, I haven't produced a project out of my own. I'm always waiting for somebody to approach me with an idea, and also with the budget, because otherwise I can't move, you know. So therefore, I think, and then it always gets a dialogue between those wanting to have something out, having a budget, and me trying to get it right. But anyway, I think maybe for the beginning, this is more than enough. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Adi, if you can come in here on, you know, your personal experience when you're doing this, and at the end of it, you can also touch upon what Ravi sir just left us with, as in funding always being a problem when you want to do this kind of stuff.
So hi, you know, the kind of work that I do is mainly work that is funded and driven by corporates. And I think what has happened in the last few years, thanks to the CSR, laws in India, where corporates have to put aside 2%. I think corporates have been forced, okay, let's use the word, to actually get involved in the social space. And I think that's a great thing, because not only does that give funds, but it also creates a certain professionalism to the communication. You have hugely professional marketing teams who are driving social communication, which can only be good for social causes. So one of the first corporate films that we did in the CSR space was for a project called Shakti for Hindustan Unilever, and that was where Hindustan Unilever wanted to create a different distribution channel for their products by empowering women in villages to actually become distributors of their products and educators and advocators for their products. So we made a film at the time that we started, the project was just in one state in India, which was in Andhra Pradesh. We actually went to a village outside Hyderabad, and I remember walking through that village and thinking, what is the economy of this village? And there was no economy. There's nothing happening other than agriculture. There was one guy in a little corner selling some dried fish. There was another guy who had up a crate in which there was another man sitting, and he was shaving the guy, and that was the economy of the village. There was no livelihood. Now, for a woman in that village, what is the livelihood? Okay. Now, a corporate comes in and actually starts providing these women with a livelihood. So we were tasked with making a film that would help, communicate this project and effect this social change. One, to women like this in other villages, as well as to enabling bodies like governments and NGOs and all of that to actually partner and make this, something big. And we did this very moving story of this lady called Rojamma, who was, a woman who'd been left by her husband, abused, left with 2 kids, no income, and suddenly, this.
Hi, I think Adi had an issue there. We're going to quickly, while we wait for Adi to come back in, let me just toss that last point that Ravi sir was making about funding. You spoke about self-funding a project because that's a perfect point for you, because you said that was something that you were passionate about, maybe as a person, as a team, so you decided that you all will want to do that. So how, for you, Jhelum, how does that come about? And even then, do you look at sponsorship or funding after you've decided to go ahead and do it?
So let me talk about ad films specifically here. What's happening in ad films is, unlike the CSR films that corporates come to you with, the ad films now are finding that when they make a CSR based, a social change based story, it works far better. And it not just because it's a two-pronged attack that they have. They're doing a film and they're saying, okay, we're creating a social change, but they're also getting a lot of viewership, a lot of sales, because that story is selling. So inadvertently, we get the films funded because they are paying for a film, they're paying for an ad film, they're infusing it with a story of social change, so that works. Where we really felt strongly about something is when we have funded it ourselves, like I said about the street children. But since advertising is veering towards making films that have some sort of a social message to give, it works very well for us, it works very well for them, and it's a win-win situation for all.
Yeah, but just because you mentioned advertising specifically, we've also seen backlash because either the topic is too sensitive to touch or it's very badly done. It just seems like you just try to add social impact because you think that will sell. So how do you tell your client and try and convince your client not to go down that dangerous road?
See, normally they leave it to the creative agency to come out with a good message, and it's by and large done very well. So if it's done only for the sake of making an ad, and it's badly done, that is, I've not seen too many badly done ads with social change. They come out with such powerful story that they're all conveners. I mean, they're that good. So it's really the story that sells, and they usually come out with a very good story. Of course, if it's a bad story, we have all the creative liberty to change it, and they most welcome it. So that's when we step in and we try and change it around, and they're always open to changes. Where maybe the ones that you've seen that it's badly done could be written by the client himself, because sometimes the client gets so involved in his scripts, he wants to write it himself.
Yeah. My friends are in the ad space, so I'm aware of when that happens, and it can be quite tough to say no to the guy who's signing the paycheck, right?
Yeah. No, but to be fair, clients have been very receptive to our inputs, and they do respect that we know what we're talking about, and we're not going to mess up a film. If they're saying something, it's because we truly believe it's going to be good work. At the end of the day, we have to showcase it as our work as well.
Sure. Ravi sir, while you wait for Adi to get back into the conversation, when you look around you, when you look around at your peers, at friends, maybe in other geographies, maybe in the same sector, you see work that has inspired you. You see work that has led you to also look at whether you need to evolve your way, or you need to add some element. We all steal, right? All artists know that we all steal, but we only steal at a theme perspective, or we steal at a point, like you just said about Romeo and Juliet. Are you really stealing from William Shakespeare? Are you adapting it? So when I'm asking you about examples from other people, feel free to bring in how you see something that was handled differently, and you said, oh, that's an interesting piece of work that I saw recently. And that is something, like I often tell people about stories my colleagues have done at other agencies, because sometimes it's just so well done that that's a better example than any work that I have done on that topic. So anything that, first Ravi sir and then Jhelum, either of you all want to talk about?
Well, may I just point out, I don't think it's stealing, it's like getting inspired, okay? So, but okay, this is the, so there are, and secondly, also, if we are talking about storytelling, stories are being told since the beginning of mankind. So I think there will always be a repetition nowadays, somehow, if you break it down to the dramaturgy, Secondly, we are also looking back to more than 100 years of film. So there are a lot of examples, of course, which are inspiring without highlighting the one or the other. And yes, we are inspired. And or to say it like you, Bijoy, yes, we are stealing somehow, but of course we are always trying also to adapt it to the circumstances we find ourselves in, or coming back to the founder, to the needs of the founder. What is the message? And try also, of course, as Jhelum put it, to also put our own ideas and make it better. First of all, if I may come back to my film, well, one of my films, Chaguo, it's called the Romeo and Juliet adaptation. There you are. It was a Romeo and Juliet adaptation. So stealing from Shakespeare to certain, but of course, then, you know, when you start working on the script, this just is a starting point, but then it changes, and then Romeo and Juliet can't be really found in this anymore. So it has become something very unique and own, which worked well with 3 million people watching it in Kenya, and also now taken in by Netflix, which hopefully also will find even more a bigger and better audience. Anyway, I don't know. Did I answer your question?
No, you spoke about the work around it, but what I meant to say is there something that you've seen a format, or you've seen something done in a certain way where you've said, oh, that's something I would like to try out. Maybe that person's done it extremely well, and you've said, oh, I want to try that out. Like, I keep seeing my friends doing podcasts and they do it extremely well. And I'm somebody who likes talking, but I also know that I'm at the risk of being, you know, talking too much and not getting the format right. So have you seen formats, or have you seen, you know, work among friends, among peers, or across geographies where you've said, oh, that's an excellent piece of work?
Okay. So to be very concrete, so when we were preparing our Kenyan high-end series, Country Queen drama series, we were checking on other successful drama series, and for instance, Ozark was a good example. Maybe some of you have seen it. So for instance, so we checked on Ozark. So what was specific about it, and what can we take in, and how should we change it so it becomes unique? Maybe that's an example. And also coming back to Romeo and Juliet, there was a film, I think more than 20 years ago, there was a Romeo and Juliet version. I don't know who directed it, because there are so many Romeo and Juliets, but it felt like a video clip feature, so to say. So also this was very inspiring for me, and I tried to take over some of those aesthetic elements, into the shooting of Chaguo, the feature film, which I just referred to. Yeah.
So I think Adi came and left in between, but Jhelum, in the interim, what are the kind of work that you see around you, or, you know, across geographies at award functions, that you look at and say, oh, this is interesting, this is something interesting I would want to work on?
Well, like I was saying, you know, you asked me whether there is work that is not that great, that is put up there, very average, but I've seen some really good work in this space of social change, and I can talk about tons and tons of films, but my favorite would be the one that was done. I'm talking about ad films now, because Ravi's already taken on television, etc. So on ads, I would say there was lots of companies do these fabulous touching films on social change. So the one that's topmost in my mind is the one done by Wix. So Wix tagline is generation of care. And what they do is all companies link the social change message to their tagline in a very clever way. And Wix also, as usual, has done it beautifully. So the ad is based on a true story. It opens with this young girl. She's traveling home in a bus and she's reminiscing about her mother. You're only seeing this girl's shot. And she's talking about her mother, how brave she's been. She sacrificed everything for a child and for her own education, the child's education. She wanted to become a doctor and looked after every need of hers. And as she talks, you realize that this girl is actually an orphan, and she's talking about the mother who adopted her, not her biological mother. And then the camera pulls out and you reveal the mother sitting next to her who's adopted her, and we realize she's transgender. And the end is really most touching, because the girl ends by saying, in civics we are taught everyone has basic rights, then why not my mother? That's why I will not become a doctor, I'll become a lawyer. And then comes the brand pitch, but totally in sync with the message. It says everyone deserves the touch of care, Wix caring for families for generations. So this is what companies are doing with their ad films, which I think is really nice. Like I said, win-win situation for all. Here's an ad that benefits all: social change, public interest stories that catch viewers' interest also. So even the viewers interested, and there's effective brand building and brand promotion as well. So everybody wins.
Sure. While we wait for Adi to come back in, is there? Do y'all see?
Am I back, Bijoy? I think
yeah. We can see you. Yeah, we can see you now. We couldn't see you earlier.
Okay, I'm terribly sorry. Yeah, I'm terribly sorry about this. So, just building on some of the things that my colleagues spoke about. Yeah. So, I think what's important, very important, is that the message be based on an insight. Okay. So one of the things that one of the films that I saw, which I wished I'd done, was a film on smoking, anti-smoking. And I forget which country it was, but obviously they tried the usual route, smoking kills you, etc., 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 and it didn't work. And then they came up with this one film where they showed a couple going to a movie theater, and the guy lights up in the movie theater, and at that time you could light up in a movie theater, and he leans across to kiss his girlfriend, and the girl goes like, and this line comes up which says, smokers make lousy kissers. Okay. And boom, smoking dipped in that country. Now, I think that's the insight, which is that, people don't mind dying because death is fairly certain for everyone, but they don't want to live badly. And I think that's the insight. You want to live well. So a film on social change, which is based on a strong human insight, I think can really, really actually affect behavior.
That is great. What you just spoke about right now. Also, are there moments, because you were also telling us your earlier answer, right? Are there moments when there is a risk of the clients who's funding you having Adi with us? Okay, while we wait for Adi to come back, at this point of time, when we see, so I'm opening this up to you both too. When you have something that is funded by a client, by a corporate sometimes, is there skepticism about why they are doing it, or the fact that there are some of the largest CSR funders, when they try and do something about climate change, for example, but their core businesses tend to be about something like coal or carbon intensive energies. How do you balance out the messaging, and how do you also ensure that people see your work as being credible, and not only to whitewash or white coat what would be work that these guys want to portray out there? So Adi, if you're online, if you can take that, and then we will switch it to Jhelum and Ravi accordingly. I think he's still got an issue.
Adi is muted. He's muted.
Yeah, I think Adi is muted at this point. Maybe we can try keeping the video off, so at least we can get the benefit of your voice. Adi with us? It is the natural law, right? When no matter how much network you have through the day, when you need it, network will desert you. Adi, if you can quickly come in with the network.
I think
you're still muted.
Back, yeah.
You're still muted, Adi.
If you could give me a headline on the question.
Yeah, basically, how do you try and do credible work, even though the funding may come from a corporate or someone whose core business is at complete odds with it, and how do you not end up trying to look at like it's whitewashed or that kind of work? So yeah.
So I think Unilever does it well. They talk about doing well by doing good. So they actually do put their heart into whatever CSR work they do. And I think it comes from a good place. So I think as long as you're a corporate that genuinely believes that what you're doing is has some value, I think that's good. The whitewash shows. I mean, today you can't hide whitewash. If you're not authentic about something, it's going to show. And you'll have enough people, yelling at you in the comment section and calling you a fraud. So you better be, extremely, extremely authentic about what you're doing, or not do it at all. I found a lot of times that going non-fiction is a very good way of ensuring an authenticity. Sometimes stories reside in people. So in the case of Shakti, which I brought up in the beginning, that was a real story. So the story resided in this woman, and we just brought it out. We didn't give her a script. It was her story that she spoke about, which was extremely powerful in any case. So that's a great way of building authenticity. And sometimes you just as a corporate, I think it has more value to just get out of the way and leave it to some rub off to your brand. And keep it as subtle as possible. Don't try and sell. Sometimes it's best to just say, brought to you in the public interest by, and that's it, and just leave it at that. Sometimes if it's an initiative that you've done, then by all means take credit for it. No harm.
For example, the Save the Tiger did not have anything except the brand messaging, but the way the campaign caught fire across India and the kind of conservation boost it gave to the tigers means that the rub-off on the brand was extremely huge. Unfortunately, the brand has not survived, but that's a separate story altogether. Jhelum and Ravi, in that order, on the same mission.
Ravi going first?
Yeah, but I never conquered the situation like that, so therefore I can't really answer this. I was in a lucky position till now. There was no whitewashing nowhere, so therefore I give it to Jhelum.
Yeah, like Ravi, I've not been approached by anybody so far who was trying to whitewash a situation. But by and large, if I was, I think I'd rather look at the bigger picture. At least there's a film being made on social change that needs to reach the masses, so let's just do it.
Sure. Again,
what your conscience? The company is the one that needs to worry about its reputation.
Correct. No. So I was trying to say that how do you try and work it out? But what you guys are saying is, in the end, if the message is good, if the heart of the messaging is good, it works. Again, sorry. I find myself sitting at my friend's place because there was so much traffic in Bombay as always. So I decided to turn around and just land up in my friend's place. And she's sitting and doing an edit of her travel to Antarctica. And she's one of the first Indian women to have traveled to Antarctica and done this. And her work has come in, every large channel platform, Netflix, Indian platforms, everything. And it's only serendipity that I ended up having to, turn back and come here. Even as we speak, a lot of her work gets support from, like you said, Candid camera. So here we had Canon camera asking her to kind of, use their camera while you shoot. So you can find ways of collaborating with the right brands that will ensure that you have support, but you also are able to. I'm not doing a plug for it. I'm just trying to, because I happen to be sitting in over here. So overall, when we look at the kind of reception that you get, is there a good mood? As in India, like you said, a lot of it is CSR driven, as Adi was mentioning earlier. Is there overall climate and receptivity to social impact programming in every sector, or are there skews within sectors also? And I'm going to start with Adi because he still has network. But for example, he did Shanti. At that point of time, I think there was social impact messaging happening just by, him doing that program, and the fact that it was path breaking. Or we had Udan before that, and we have had commercial work that has happened. So actually, we're going to let Ravi, because he's raised his hand, answer this. But if you could just use examples to try and talk about the overall climate and receptivity to it. So Ravi, because you raised your hand, and then we'll toss to Adi.
Yeah, I tried, in a nutshell, I was living in Kenya, in Nairobi, for more than 8 years. And as you might know, a lot of UN institutions are there, a lot of NGOs. So it's some kind of an NGO or political foundation hub over there. Also a lot of international companies. And so what I found out is that there is a lot of communication taking place. They're spending a lot of money in communicating whatsoever. But the audiovisual medium somehow is not very popular, because I think also because they're afraid of the costs quite often, and also maybe they're also afraid of or worried about getting a mass audience, maybe also judging them in a way they don't want to be judged. So I've done around about 10 behavior change projects in Nairobi in those years, but it was very hard to convince the donors of using audiovisual medium. So because there was also always very often the tendency to, oh, let's make a conference first of all, or let's make a print, something, because I'm also a journalist, so, and I also work for PR companies and whatnot. So I also would be able to do that, but being a director now, filmmaker, of course, this is my main aim. So it was quite a struggle to get them convinced to do that. So so there we are. We just also tried, just now we trying to convince UNICEF, of course, to go more to audio-visual communication. It's a very hard, tough fight, because and I think something which is also missing is the proof that audiovisual communication is effective for them. So there is not really a scientific proof for that. There are some scientific researches on how effectful behavior change film or film as such can be in order to change or to initiate social change. But it's very small area also in the scientific world. So latest maybe, and then I end my comment. The World Bank did a research on the effectiveness of film as a social change factor. So MTV produced a series on sexual behavior in sub-Saharan Africa. And the World Bank did a research whether this affects the sexual behavior of youngsters, people between 15 and 35, let's say. This all was connected, of course, to the AIDS issue, which is still alive in sub-Saharan Africa. And they could find out that the audience was ready to change their behavior to a very good extent. So, but this is only one of you really rare will find studies on that. So there we are. So, yeah. Okay. Hope I answered your question. Thanks.
I think Adi, we'll just wait for Adi for a second. But in the interim, like just as an example, talking about learning disabilities in India picked up sharply and became normalized after a movie called Tare Zameen Par. So there is always impact. Sometimes we may not have a study, but it became part of thought processes when educationists were talking about it, when schools were preparing shadow teachers. So impact, we may not always be able to measure, but change often happens. So Adi, since you're with us, Adi and then Jhelum on the same issue.
I think Adi should go while he's still.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I'm sorry, I'm in a small place outside Bombay called Karjat, and the network really sucks. Okay, so on social change, as I've understood it, and the impact of audiovisual on that, I think, and you mentioned Shanti while I was briefly in and out. I think a lot of times you're not even sure that something is going to have an impact. I wasn't sure that Shanti would have an impact. I knew it would work as entertainment, but I didn't realize just how much of an impact it would have in terms of, making women feel good about themselves, making them feel more empowered to watch a strong, iconic female figure on television. And I didn't realize that at the time that I was making it. I hoped for it in some way, but I think it took me by surprise as to just how much of an impact it did have. So does audiovisual have an impact? Yes, certainly it does. But like any other medium, it all depends on the message itself. What is the power of the message? What is it that, what is the story? What is the insight, the human insight that you're really, leveraging off? I mean, you can make bad audiovisual communications which have zero impact. But done well, audiovisual is certainly the closest, the best kind of communication that we have. And I can say that intuitively, don't really need too much research for that.
Yeah. I'm someone who comes from a print background, but it's in the last 3 years when we've all been forced to adjust to multimedia and audiovisual. It's been such a learning experience, understanding how much more of an impact and visibility sometimes some other medium may have for some stories. So some stories are great in print, but some stories also work much better in an AV medium. Jhelum, if you want to come.
Yeah, I mean, I totally believe in the film medium as one of the best media if you want to have any kind of impact. Because of the huge media influx. I mean, now there are so many platforms to view a message from. There's cinema screens, there are TV screens, there are laptops, iPads, smartphones. So half your battle is won. If you want to make an impact, your film has to be seen by audiences. And now everyone has access to films. Unlike earlier when, you had to wait to see, okay, is there a captive audience in a cinema hall? How many people are watching my television program? Here, it's available. The access is absolutely open. So that's one big thing, one huge hurdle that we've got rid of. Then there's so much more awareness nowadays of what is happening, and people want to know what's happening all across the world. So many inspiring stories of people, not just in India, but all over the world, fighting for their rights, fighting for a change. And now people have come to understand that, you don't have to just put up with things, you can change it around. And that, life is not just you can have your cake and eat it, you can have your rights and enjoy them too. And you can't be bullied into submission. You can fight for your cause. There'll be a lot of support. And this is what the film medium has actually done. Because it's reached everybody, it's reached people from all over the world. It's actually made people get motivated. Film is that it's not just something that you hear or read, but you visually see the truth of what's happening around you. There are true stories. They have a way of touching emotions, opening wounds. And that's all the motivation you need to stand up and do something. And actually stand up for people who are wrong. So, and there are amazing, inspiring stories, motivating stories that are being told all over. I'm talking specifically about ads and even the CSR companies who are, like Adi said, almost forced to do this kind of work. They're coming out with really beautiful stories, and many of them are true stories. So that does make an impact. Sure. And with smartphones and Insta Reels, it's so easy to spread news of what's happening globally. A video goes viral, whole world sees it, you can see the reaction, you can see how many people have viewed it, you can gauge their reaction. It's on a global scale. So this can only get better and more powerful and more effective.
Okay, even though my last question was on collaboration, I see a couple of questions in the chat box, and we've kind of touched upon it, but it's open to either Jhelum or Adi or even Ravi if he wants to come in. How much is the filmmaker in a position to agree or refuse to do a film when approached, especially if they believe only halfway in the messaging? And I'm going to add the second bit in.
Yes, of course.
Content's connected, Jhelum, sorry. Do you all shuffle commercial big money projects and social impact ones as a means of balancing out, well, the commercial and the passion projects? Sorry, I thought they both could be connected, so I'm putting them together. It's open to all three of you. If Jhelum wants to take it, then Adi. Yeah.
Adi's raised his hand. He can go ahead.
Adi.
Yeah, so I think it's very simple to agree or refuse to do a film when approached. You just decide whether you want to take the check or not. If I personally, I can't do a film if I don't believe in it. It just doesn't work, because for me, film comes from the heart. And if my heart is not in it, then I might as well not do it. So we just say, no, we can't do this. But, that's been fairly rare. More or less, we've worked with corporates who are actually doing good work on the ground, and we just need to showcase that work. So that's part one of the question. Do we shuffle commercial big money projects and social impact? Yes, certainly we do. That's what keeps the lights and fans on in my office. I do need, I don't know about big money projects, but certainly money projects, certainly we do. And social impact ones, yes, we do. I mean, and it's simple enough. I think time is the way that you is the arbiter. So you decide how much time you have, and if you can take on a social project, you take it on.
Jhelum?
Yeah, I totally agree. I've never had an experience with a corporate trying to push a project that is not acceptable. And not even presenting a project that is not acceptable. They've come up with some brilliant ideas, and some great scripts have come to us. So we've never ever faced that problem. And yes, if you don't like something, you can always refuse. And it's not a big deal, because they have plenty of people. If we say no, there are about 100 others who say yes. So it's no big deal for the corporate either to get a no.
Yeah.
And yes, about balancing funds, we all do that. In fact, I would love to have more projects where where it's interesting work that we can do, and even if it's a low cost or no cost, it would be wonderful. We've done quite a bit of it and can continue to do it.
Sure. Ravi, do you face the ethical side of the dilemma, even if you don't face the funding part of the issue, because you spoke about it? Are there ethical questions that come up because either of the funder or the kind of messaging that comes?
It certainly can, but I'm in the lucky position, as I mentioned 20 minutes before. I never was confronted with a funder or client where I had to sell my soul, so to say. And as Jhelum said, there are a lot of people out there. So if company or corporate wants to find somebody to convey messages or to whitewash, they will find somebody. Most probably amongst the younger colleagues who are desperately longing for get experience and something, so they might not care. But it's all speculative. So no, yeah, that's actually it. Yeah.
Okay, just shout out to Aparna Lakshmi Singh for those wonderful questions. Extremely thought-provoking ones at that. Ravi, as we come to the close of this conversation, both of our other panelists are struggling with their network at this point. But since you're sitting globally, are there opportunities for collaborations across geographies or across media that you find extremely interesting, and that now, because maybe networks have become better, technology has become better, that you can actually do a lot more collaborations across different countries and media? Anything that you want to speak on this, on Ravi, and then maybe Adi also?
Yeah, there are topics which apply to many countries, I would say. For instance, we are just preparing something about women's rights, which is quite a thrilling story about young women trying to play football. This is just one example, and we are preparing it for Kenya. It's a feature film, or it might be also a series. We are talking with Netflix about that. So, but the core of the story and the plot could also be told in South America, in Asia, India, in Germany, Sweden, and so on. So I think it's also good to keep in mind that stories you are developing can be translated into several areas. So this also might be interesting for funders, saying like, okay, we developed something, because the development of a story and Adi and Jhelum might agree, might also be very exhausting and also money intensive. But once developed a good story, then to translate it to other cultures or other areas, other territories, might be an option also to work more effective. And also check on revenues, because I don't know in which situation Jhelum and Adi are in, but I'm also a businessman. I also have to check on revenue. So that's something I'm trying to develop now better in the next years. But looking for revenue doesn't contradict also having a message, right? So and if it comes together, I think that's the best what can happen. Thanks.
Sure. Adi, do you actively look out for opportunities, maybe across mediums, across geographies when you're looking at projects? And Jhelum, now that your network's also back on, same question tossed to you. So first Adi, then Jhelum.
So I'm pretty much India centric right now. I have had things move which have traveled geographically, and we have also shot, for example, for HUL, for some of their water projects, we've shot in Africa. But by and large, we're India centric. We've had Shanti travel across Asia. So went to Sri Lanka, went to Malaysia. So yeah, but I mean, I can't really comment too much on that because my geography is India as of now.
Yeah, but what about the medium side of it? Are there opportunities where you see something that you've done which can be translated into another medium? There was just to give a random example, but there was a play I had done. My friend wanted to turn it into a dance performance, and she did. So it's as much mine as it's hers now. So there are always opportunities that, people find in it. Yeah.
Sure. So there are some ideas which do travel across media. I haven't done too much in that area in the social space.
Okay.
Certainly in the brand space, we have ideas that have traveled.
I have a count of 5, and after which we toss to Jhelum.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of work overseas and for overseas clients, but they've always been in the advertising space, not in the social media space at all. A lot of the work that we create are very focused on the Indian culture, and I'm not sure how well that would translate. I don't think, let's put it the other way, I don't think the West is ready for our ideas as of now, because a lot of ideas deal with us, our culture, our street culture as such, and I don't think they're ready for it. We have adapted a lot of international stuff here for the feature films, and mainly for feature films. That's how it works. A lot of television serials have been adapted. In fact, I know of one done by my ex-boss who produced a serial called Hamrahi, which was based on research done in Mexico on the effectiveness of soap operas to bring about social change. So the team had traveled to Mexico, done research, and adapted it to India. It was a huge success here. What we have done is we have collaborated in a small way with a children's television workshop USA, which produces Sesame Street. And we've used their research to make a children's educational entertainment serial here called Emin Sade Teen, which had featured at that time Sachin Khedekar, Anant Mahadevan, and Rima Lagu. And we touched on social issues there too, like caring for animals, personal hygiene, safety, etc. It was a children's serial, based totally on the research that we got from CTW. So magazine type format, how long each section should be, how to interweave learning while entertaining. But the rest of the global collaboration we've done is primarily for brands across the world, but only for brands.
Fair enough. Adi, you were making a point at the end.
So yeah, I personally am by and large restricted to the geography of India, but I know that if an idea is universal enough, there's no reason why it can't travel. We've had another experience, which was a Shakti film, which did, get screened in the UN and has had an impact, internationally as well. But I think the bigger impact has been in India. I think they've got some millions of lives which have been touched by that project, and I think that's the big impact.
So thank you so much for that. We have had an engaging conversation. We've used up the hour, and in spite of network, and that's just going to happen if you have an online session. You may have network the whole day, but these are niggles that we just have learned to live with since 2020. But it still enables us to all catch up in such a wonderful forum. It's been an hour since we started, and someone who's always kept to the time frames. Thank you so much for at least sharing as much as you could within the restricted framework of my pointed questions, and the ability to ensure that everybody had enough pointers to say. Also taking the questions and engaging. Thanks, Ravi, for also engaging with the general chat with the audience. Jhelum, there's a specific question for you in general chat. Somebody wants to get a link of what you were referring to. Thank you so much to the audience for also logging in. That's it from us. Naresh, if there's anything that you guys want to communicate, otherwise, this is Bijoy Idicheriah signing off and thanking the panel once again, Jhelum, Ravi, and Adi for the time spent. Thank you, everyone, for logging in.
Thank you. Thanks, Bijoy, for having us.
Thank you.